Hello and welcome back to Cycle Sync with G. Today is day 26 of the Sculpt series, if you're following along those Cycle Synced workouts, but today's a rest day. So as we get later and later into the menstrual cycle, so right now we are day 26, so the real late luteal phase, exercise and movement becomes a lot harder, recovery is a lot more important, and rest. So there's few more rest days inserted in here, but I wanted to today introduce, or not even introduce, address the fact of the luteal phase and why it actually feels so crap and so shit, and especially these last 3-4 days before the period actually comes, why? So I want to basically unpack the science today of what is going on to make you feel so crap. So the luteal phase, as you can see here, is the second half of the cycle. So you ovulate, and then straight after that, you are in your luteal phase, which is 2 weeks, 14 days until the next period comes. So it's the days in between ovulation and menstruation, or the first day of your menstruation marks the end of the luteal phase, basically. So a quick summary of why everything feels so rubbish in the luteal phase. Sleep quality kind of goes out the window. As I said, in the first few days of the luteal phase, this rise in progesterone can make things a little bit more, calm, and you might fall into a lovely deep sleep. As it gets greater, and as body temperature also rises, as we can see here, straight after ovulation, body temperature rises. That makes sleep more difficult. It can rise about 0.5 Celsius, which is going to lead to lighter sleep, more waking time. So you'll probably feel a little bit more tired the next day, even though you got the same amount of sleep. The quality of sleep decreases, as well as progesterone on top of that, which is already making you feel tired and sleepy. Your metabolism shifts. So because you are building a uterine lining, the second half of the cycle is dedicated to thickening and maintaining the uterine lining in case that egg that was ovulated or released during ovulation is fertilized and you are now growing a baby inside. The body doesn't know until about day 21. So it still grows, thickens, and maintains this uterine lining. Therefore, this behind the scenes work is basically an internal workout, and so your energy expenditure rises from between 100 to 300 extra calories per day. And if you're not eating that as well, that's going to intensify any carb cravings, sugar cravings, just this enormous appetite that you might feel. If you're not hitting that extra caloric requirement, as well as maybe doing too much as well, that's also going to lead to this intense cravings and hunger. But essentially your body is doing a lot without you actually doing very much, just building this uterine lining inside. But just make sure that you fuel for that and rest for that as well. Another thing, progesterone, because of its slow, low calming effect, it does affect digestion. So the progesterone relaxes the smooth muscle which surrounds the intestine, which means gut motility is slower, which can lead to constipation, bloating, cramps, just general discomfort. You might feel like it's not as regular in the luteal phase, or things just feel a bit more tense. Towards the end of the luteal phase, so round about now, day 26, maybe yesterday, prostaglandins are rising, and those are what are potentially going to give you some headaches, cramps, general aches and pains. Like I said before, everything just feels kind of stiff and more painful than it usually would. And if you're continuing with workouts or training or anything, or even if you haven't done anything particularly strenuous, you might wake up being feel a bit more stiff. That's prostaglandins. So that also leads to you feeling just a bit more bleh and gross in your luteal phase. Cortisol sensitivity also increases in the luteal phase, which means you're probably more likely to be more sensitive to and react differently to stress and stresses. So stressful things might feel a little bit more stressful, which can also lead to you feeling a little bit more overwhelmed, or overwhelmed easier, a bit more reactive, or potentially a bit more anxious. I can certainly vouch for all three of those. And then lastly, as I mentioned, if you are training, or you're an athlete, or you just like to go to the gym or Pilates, or just train, normally, due to the higher body temperature, all of the prostaglandins in this last late luteal phase, and high progesterone, which just makes everything feel a bit slower, and potentially also prostaglandins and cramping and bloating and slow digestion, all of this basically. You've also got lower estrogen in this phase. You've got a little mini peak of estrogen in the second half, but it's kind of blunted and diluted by the high progesterone. It just adds more hormones to the whole hormonal situation. Its job in the luteal phase is basically to build the uterine lining, because estrogen is a building hormone. So also in this second half of the cycle, in the luteal phase, without as much estrogen, you'll find your recovery is probably slightly slower. Your muscle building potential is lower. So you definitely gotta recover and refuel well with lots of protein. But your tolerance for high intensity exercise is lower, energy's lower, motivation's lower. All of these are estrogen reliant, which obviously we don't have as much estrogen in the second half of the cycle. So motivation is lower, tolerance for high intensity exercise is lower. You also got less joint stability, so you got to warm up and cool down well as well, and less muscle recovery. Basically, estrogen expedites the recovery process of muscles, or just after you've had a crazy workout yesterday, you might wake up feeling like, oh, I feel a little bit stiff and sore, but yeah, fuck yeah, let's go again. Whereas you don't have that right now, so you got a kind of less of a recovery boost, which is why HIIT or an intense workout or anything might feel a little bit more draining in this phase. So that kind of gives an overview of all the reasons why. I had to look this up. I've got a science questioning brain. So I wanted to know, why do I always feel so like twitchy, or like I don't have energy, motivation, all this is all so much lower in the luteal phase. So that is what I found. I hope that's like helpful to you in just understanding your body, and that's kind of the best that you can do, as well as some nutrition and exercise hacks, which I'm going to get onto now. But I think understanding what's actually going on in your body can really help that first step of being like, okay, this is what's happening. How are we going to deal with it? What are we going to do about it? How are we going to move forward about it? Because there's that saying, accept what you can't change, or change what you can't accept. There is no changing here, unless you don't want kids or want to go on the contraceptive pill or just don't want hormones, full stop. But if you do want to have a natural cycle, there is no changing. So we've got to accept what we can't change. And here's what you can do about it using nutrition. We want to focus on complex carbs. So those are going to boost your serotonin levels, which, as I said, are slightly lower in this phase. So carbs are going to create that comforting feeling, and also satiating, which is, you know, as your appetite is higher, so go for the whole grain, you know, brown rice and quinoa, buckwheat, all those like ancient grains and stuff as well, or sweet potato, leave the skins on, anything that's more high fiber. Fiber is going to help stabilize the blood sugar, reduce this like potential spike and crash, which would then lead to more cravings of more carbs later. So to kind of keep things as balanced as possible, we want to include those complex carbs in the luteal phase. That's going to help you feel good, give you energy. Magnesium-rich foods. Magnesium calms the nervous system, which if you are feeling anxious, overwhelmed, you know, cortisol sensitivity is higher. Magnesium will help with cramps, muscular cramps, body cramps, backache, you know, all those kind of cramps. Magnesium helps soothe that. And that is why we crave chocolate. Chocolate is, especially dark chocolate, go for as dark as you can, or just hot cocoa powder in like a hot cocoa drink is also delicious. I've got some great recipes on my website, by the way. But chocolate, there's a reason why we crave chocolate, and mostly that is because of the magnesium in there, as well as the sugars, but that's for the complex carbs, like I mentioned before. So best case, you're having dark chocolate, like a dark chocolate sweet potato brownie, or like one of those healthy sweet potato brownie recipes. Great. Pumpkin seeds, also really high in magnesium, and your leafy greens. And these are also going to provide iron, which in a few days is going to start to decline. So if you can kind of front load the iron and make sure that your iron stores are full for when you start losing blood, you're already in a better position to not get so fatigued and drained in your menstrual phase. B vitamins, these support energy and the production of neurotransmitters, as well as a bit of metabolism as well there. Again, in your whole grains, so in your oats, in your brown rice, and eggs are a great source of B vitamins too, as well as Marmite, nutritional yeast. Those are great sources of B12, which are also going to help with your energy. Anti-inflammatory foods, as I've said, it's like an inflammatory phase. You're puffy, bloated, just feel a bit like your digestion is slower, everything is just a bit more like inflamed. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but I always just feel like that, like on edge, or like I'm gonna explode, literally. Like body feels like a balloon, and towards this like day 26 now is when I start to feel that pressure of the balloon, just so ready basically for the release that comes with the period. So anti-inflammatory foods are going to help with the mood, the bloating, the PMS, and that we know best source of that is curcumin and turmeric. Also berries for the antioxidants. Oily fish is a great one too. And then another one that's going to really help you feel good is staying hydrated. Hydration is super important. You might think like because you're bloated and puffy and this water retention, the way to combat that is with more water. I know that doesn't make sense. That helps to flush everything out and keep everything like moving instead of holding it stagnant and holding on to that water. So hydration, also very important to drink a lot if you up your fiber, which recommended to up your fiber in the second half. As I said, digestion slows down, so that's going to help, you know, your bowels stay regular and all that. And then on your exercise, generally, I would, and what I do with my clients is tone down the intensity. As I said, your body is already doing a lot. She's building and maintaining a uterine lining. Everything else around it makes everything feel a lot harder to exercise anyways. So dial it down, and that's going to help you feel less drained and less like starving later. And I'm not saying don't exercise, I'm saying just swap these like max out classes with something lower intensity. Pilates is a great one for the luteal phase. It's form focused, it's slow, it's lengthening, strengthening. Pilates is fantastic for the luteal phase. Yoga is another great one as well. Or if you do want to hit the gym, focus on form, less reps and more breaks at a kind of moderate strength with a slower tempo. And you want to, just focus on the control and the slow and form, alignment, making sure your knee is in line with your ankle. And if you don't feel like doing any kind of muscle work, walking is just great in this phase. Cycling, swimming, all of these will improve your mood, but without spiking cortisol, leading to a stress response and all of that. In terms of lifestyle and recovery, sleep. Prioritize your sleep hygiene. Start your wind down routine slightly earlier, you know, screens off, maybe light a candle, do some calming, read before bed. If you can, make the room slightly cooler since your body's already running hotter and we sleep better in a kind of cooler environment. We also want to focus on keeping your cortisol stable. So however, this is quite dependent on you. I love journaling. I used to meditate loads, probably should meditate or get back into meditating again, but if that's your jam, sometimes I find it's quite difficult to meditate, which is probably why I should meditate in the luteal phase, but it sometimes just frustrates me too much, and I prefer to like write out all of my thoughts rather than just like, I don't know, meditating. But breathwork, yin yoga, I can't recommend yin yoga enough, or yoga nidra, or anything that's relaxing and somatic and stabilizing and grounding, and any other kind of form of yoga also that helps you kind of relax and manage your stress. And then in terms of work and productivity, if you can, and if you are cycle syncing, this is where in the second half of your cycle, and especially in these last few days, if you can allow a lighter workload or plan for that basically, so that you have most things done, so that you can do a little bit less in these last few days and give yourself the rest and mental rest, you know, the psychological rest as much as the physical rest as you can. Like, these are great days for admin stuff, mundane tasks like clearing out your desktop, clearing out emails, organizing your desktop, cleaning your desk area. Nothing that's kind of too intense. Like, don't expect the follicular and ovulatory phase energy here, basically. And I guess I want to end on the fact that this second half of the cycle, no matter how kind of crap you feel and how shitty the days are, it does pass. It's 100% natural and normal. That is me. I get like this, I feel all these things. Arguably, I feel them incredibly strongly because I didn't have a cycle for years, and I'm now like coming to terms with how fuck a luteal phase is actually really fucking shit sometimes. But it doesn't mean, you know, you're broken or anything. Your body's literally shifting gears. And if you think about the cycle as a cycle, preparing, this is autumn. Your body is preparing for hibernation, which will be, you know, winter, which is the menstrual phase when you're on your period. And if you think about it physiologically as well, if you were pregnant and you have a baby inside, your body's putting all the energy and the nourishment into that, you know, the uterine lining, which is building right now. And progesterone especially is slowing everything down, you know, your brain and how fast you can think and how fast you can do things in preparation for a potential birth or potential pregnancy or menstruation, which is also a phase or period literally where you probably might not feel like doing very much then either. So it's your body kind of soft launching you into this like either period or pregnancy where you're gonna be lower and slower. And the best thing you can do from experience is to just go with it. The more you fight it, and I'm gonna do this workout, I'm gonna work super hard, and I'm still gonna run 10K or whatever, like, you definitely end up regretting it either later that day, the next day when you wake up, or your menstrual phase. What I've been finding too is that if I push too hard or push super hard in my luteal phase, even if it doesn't affect me then, my period, the period that comes after that, I'm like so dead. And I have a feeling that's related to have just doing too much and pushing it too hard in the luteal phase when my body needed more rest and recovery and, you know, nourishment and slow everything. And also, we live in this man's world where every day is the same, but you're not meant to peak every single day. As a woman, we experience these, like, you know, a week basically in our cycle where we are at our absolute peak, and then everything else is in preparation for that peak. Whereas men, they have their peak, you know, once every day. We have it once every month. The point is, as I said before, leaning into it and working with your cycle, adjusting your expectations, adjusting your training, adjusting your workload, adjusting your nutrition and your food, understanding what your body is going through is a much easier route than working against it, pushing against it, and essentially constantly feeling defeated by it. And maybe that's not what you wanted to hear, but it is a solution which makes this phase a hell of a lot easier. If this is a time of your cycle which you do struggle with, I certainly do. And if you're looking for phase by phase nutrition and workouts and everything, then you are in the right place, because this is part of a 28-day cycle synced sculpt series where every single workout is synced to the day of the cycle that you're on. So we're doing exactly what we're talking about now. We turn down the tempo in this second half of the cycle, which will then re-energize you for that first half of the cycle, where we go a little bit harder, sculpt a little bit more. Nutrition tips, I got you covered on my website, where I basically have a section for each phase of phase-specific recipes on there. And make sure you subscribe, because there'll be so much more of this. I'm so interested by this and passionate about this that I'm constantly doing my own research, even if that is me search and just, you know, observing myself and journaling a lot and learning about myself. And then I go and read science papers and read the facts. I want to share it. That's the mission. That's the goal of this platform, is to share it so that everyone can learn from it. I've been through phases of feeling just highly frustrated with myself, especially in the luteal phase. So for me, understanding this stuff really helped, which is why I want to share everything I can on this channel. And lastly, of course, if you want to work with me, I am a qualified personal trainer, and I sync your menstrual cycle with the training that we do to reach your personal fitness goals, but we do it in sync with your cycle. I'm based online, but follow the link in the description below for more information on that. And I will see you tomorrow on day 27 for your slow, stretchy mobility type class. Enjoy the rest of your day 26. Go make some nourishing food, relax, nap, do what you need to do, and I'll see you next time.